Claudine Hemingway is a descendant of famed writer Ernest Hemingway. We bumped into each other at a party and decided to team up and dive deep into French history, but with a twist, by bringing a spotlight to those lesser known creatives in France. This is History with a Hemingway.
Welcome back to Paris History Avec Hemingway. I'm back with Claudine, and today we're talking about the Jardin des Plantes. I don't know if you've ever visited this giant park. It's wonderful, and Claudine's going to tell us all about it.
It really is fantastic. And as we just said before we hit go, it seems far. It's kind of on the edge of what you would call central Paris, but it's definitely worth a visit, especially in the springtime, or which is when all the trees are in bloom and it's amazing, but also the summer. It's just a beautiful area. And they also have a huge garden that's just peonies.
Oh, that's cool. I never know. And don't they have like a zoo in there?
They
And
do, and I'll
all
get to that
this.
too.
Yeah, they got
And
lots of
it's
stuff.
not just any old zoo, except for it does have a morbid turn to it. But of course, it seems like every week we've ventured on from the first 100 or so episodes where we work a courtesan into it. Now it just is something morbid every time.
Exactly. We've gone in a dark path here.
We've gone through all the courtesans. Now we're just going down to dark alleys. But the Jardin des Plantes is definitely worth the visit, and it has a really cool history. In 1626, Louis the 13th ordered a royal garden of medicinal plants to be created. He heard those guys down in Italy were doing this, and so of course they wanted to have something like this here in France. A botanist and a doctor named Guy de la Brosse was asked to lead the project for the king, but the idea originally started under Henry IV because he loved the Italian Renaissance and saw all these medicinal gardens in Italy. Because all of these plants, so many plants have, echinacea and all these things that we really know today. But think about this being, 400 years ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't even imagine.
Yeah. I mean, well, Eastern medicine is even older, but so the land was chosen. This small portion of the land was chosen because it was cut in half by a river, and this river is still there, which I think we actually just mentioned recently. The Bière River, which flows through the left bank. This river is still there. It's covered up, and there's talk every once in a while about uncovering it and letting it roam the streets again. So, but that would cost a fortune. So I'm sure that's something they probably aren't going to do. But or you see all the building stuff going on in Paris, you could. But seeing the benefit of the garden, the Faculty of Medicine created a garden there as well that was led by Jean Robin, who is the father of the oldest living thing still standing in Paris today, the tree that is in the little park on the left bank that looks over towards Notre Dame. If you go look at that tree, that is the oldest thing in Paris. It says Jean Robin is what the tree was named after.
I never noticed.
All ties together. So the all-powerful Cardinal Richelieu, as well as the doctor to the king, Jean Heviard, looked for the perfect location, and this area that we see was chosen, again, because of the river, because they'd have ample use of water. Guy de la Brosse compiled thousands of plants for the garden from around the world, like Napoleon would later do for Josephine's Malmaison. Louis the 13th had his officers gather specimens anywhere they went in the world, anywhere he sent them. And of course, you have to think of the world wasn't as big as we know it to be now. So that everywhere they would go, they bring back these different plants, which is funny because God forbid you bring a sprig of a tree into the United States, they're gonna like arrest you and throw you in jail.
Yeah,
But
big
back
problem.
then,
It was fine.
this is how plants and stuff moved around the world, and why we have things like why we have cherry blossom trees. Cherry blossom trees are Japanese. The reason you have them in all these places is because these came from Japan. But after the death of Louis the 13th, the garden started to just completely fall into disrepair. Louis the 14th didn't really pay any attention to it because he left Paris to go to Versailles. But then Jean-Baptiste Colbert added the garden under the umbrella of the royal buildings. And so it got a little bit of extra love in there, but not a whole lot. The nephew of Brosse was sent to the south of France and the Alps to retrieve new samples to replace all the ones that basically most of the garden just died off because they didn't take care of it. So they had to repopulate everything. Georges Louis Leclerc was the Count of Couffon, and he was placed in charge to enlarge the garden to see basically the size that we see it today. It is a pretty good sized garden. There is a statue of him that was created by Jean Carrefour in 1909 that can be seen close to the museum as you walk in. It used to be right on the edge of the street looking towards the Seine, and we did a live walk there about a year ago or so, and then it ended up being that where it's like, wait a minute, where did he go? And they moved him, so he's in a different place now. But just head to the left of the main entrance, and there is a monument to Emmanuel Fremier, that is done by Henry Leon Gerber. Fremier was a lover of animals and a master of many of the fantastic statues you see in Paris, including the gorgeous golden Jeanne d'Arc that's in right there looking over at the Louvre.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So, and that sister one is in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I know when years ago, like, I mean, we're talking like 15 years ago, when I was doing some research about this, I was reading it and I was like, wait a minute, what? It's in Portland?
Really?
And I got in the car and I was like, I gotta go find this. And there's a couple other ones. There's copies of it, I think, in St. Louis, and a couple of other places around the world, and maybe in Washington, D.C. But he loved animals. He did amazing animal sculptures, like some other people we're going to mention here in a bit. But there is another one of him in the garden as well that he did, and it is basically a bear hunter, and it is a bear hunter with the bear itself, and it looks like the hunter is definitely losing that fight. The bear is like on his like hind legs, and that hunter is definitely going to be eaten.
That hunter's definitely
He's not going to survive this. But when you see the statue, it is him, in bronze, working on like a tall little plateau, and has a small version of that statue of the bear hunter. But on the base of the statue, there's a bas relief in bronze of the Jeanne d'Arc, the Joan of Arc statue.
She's all over Paris.
I know. I'm obsessed with her. She's another one I've had on the list since the beginning to do. So that and Josephine, I've really got to get those together, because both of those will probably be multi-parts.
Yeah, very long stories.
Very long stories. Well, Jeanne d'Arc only lived to be, she was only a teenager, so it might be a short story. But just behind Fremier is so on the garden itself, the Jardin des Plantes, it's a garden, but it's also a zoo, and it also has museums. So there's multiple museums on here. This is a great place to take kids. When I'm doing planning for family visits to Paris, and they're taking young kids, I definitely tell them they have to go check this out, because this is a great place. It has all sorts of stuff. So the first one you walk in and see to the left is the Paleontology and Anatomy Museum. And so in there you see gigantic, dinosaur bones, all of this stuff. It's really, really cool. The buildings themselves each are absolutely fantastic. This gorgeous building at the end, in the very middle of it, that you see that basically towers over everything, is the Grand Gallery of Evolution. It was designed in 1877 by Jules André and was completed in 1889. On the facade, looking down into the garden, is the medallions of the former directors that helped create the gardens and the museum. As I said, it's a great place to take kids, but it's really fun. Even if you don't have kids, you could still go. It is all filled with taxidermied animals, and you walk at the bottom level of it, and it's like walking through a safari. So they have, real giraffes and real elephants and tigers, and they have all the sounds. So you could walk through and you hear like, the elephant sound and I won't do them for you now, but you could hear all of the sounds. It's so cool. The lighting in it is great, but the building itself is amazing, because you look up, the whole center of it where all of these animals are below is open. So you can look all the way up to the ceiling, and it just has all of these layers, different floors, and it's all this beautiful carved wood and sculpted iron. It's absolutely fantastic. So if you aren't into the animals and you just are architectural buff, go and see this, because it's really great. There's even a hidden staircase there. It's not really hidden. You go walk right into it, but they don't really put signs on it, and it's in a corner where not a lot of people go. But I love to take people in here and shake them to show this. So if you go in there and you see all the animals, where the side you come in is on the eastern side, head towards the west side, you'll see a huge, huge, I think it's a blue whale hanging from the ceiling. Go to where the end of it near the tail, and there's going to be a door. It doesn't even say exit or stairs or anything. Just push through these double doors and go up there. And there, it's almost like something out of Harry Potter. And you go around the staircase, and there's busts and there's sculptures on it, and go all the way up to the very top. When you get to the very top, you could kind of walk up to this little platform. You could even open the window and look down into the garden. But go after you do that, come back down like it's just basically like 4 steps. And you walk through this other little area, and there's this double wishbone shaped staircase, and go up to the very top and look down, and you're looking down into the king's cabinet. And this is where you can't go in there. And it's just this room, and this is where the king himself would keep all of his, examples of butterflies and gems and all of this stuff. And it literally is like, it feels like you're in a Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, that's wild. I never did that part.
It's really cool, and it's very hidden. Nobody ever knows to go in there. And so I sometimes send clients that even if I'm not there to take them, and I always get messages. Now, where am I going?
It's hard to find this.
Nothing has this. It's not assigned. You could even go up there and even take, maybe even have like a little picnic sitting up there overlooking the garden.
That sounds so nice.
They might not want you to eat up there, but bring a sandwich and eat it quick. Yeah. But back outside the garden, you have also the oldest iron structure in the world. This is long before Gustave Eiffel did anything. It is called the Bouffon Gloriette. It sits on the peak of a labyrinth that was kind of just basically just west of the Grand Gallery. It sits above a little tiny hill. It was once a medieval dump that covered and had a windmill there in the 16th century. It's named after the father of the garden that had it built. So that was Gloriette. It was designed by a locksmith named Edme Varenquet in 1763. It was made of iron, gold, lead, bronze, and copper. Which is really cool because it's basically also, here you are in the garden. It's basically the museums are dedicated to all natural things. So here you're going through all the history of metal, which is really neat. It's 103 years younger than the most famous iron structure, the Eiffel Tower.
103 years younger.
Older, I should say.
Older. Oh,
older.
What?
It was created 103 years before the Eiffel Tower.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, and it originally had a sphere on the top, and it actually moved with the sun, and it had a meridian marker that would mark noon each day, and inside of it had a small magnifying glass with a horsehair, and each day at noon, if the sun hit it, it would light the hair on fire, which would then trigger a little drum to strike, and everybody would know that that was noon.
What? This sounds like a lot. Like hair.
It sounds like a lot. And then I'm like, well, does somebody have to go up there every day and replace the horsehair?
Yeah, how does that work exactly?
And then what happens if you run out of horsehairs?
I feel like they never ran out of horsehair.
Yeah. Susie in the office has really long hair, so we just take some of hers.
Yeah, light that on fire. Imagine the smells coming out of that room.
Yeah, but it's teeny tiny. But it still has on the top of it, on the cornice, it is inscribed, and in English it means I only count the happy hours.
That's sweet.
But in the 18th century, it drew all sorts of people to come and see it. And so from lovers sneaking away to kids that would just like to come up there and just to hear it. But, here it's like, you have to think nobody had ever seen this iron structure before. And it was, it was quite the thing to see here in Paris.
That sounds fascinating. I really want to see that whole process work.
Yeah, I know that part of it's gone. It doesn't do that. The same thing, there's that teeny tiny cannon that's in the Palais Royal, and now they light it once a year during Patrimon weekend, but that's it. But it used to be every day at noon. It was the same kind of a thing. The little cannon would fire, and it's tiny. I mean, it's like 6 inches.
iPhones have ruined our lives. We always know what time it is.
I know. Now there's, we don't get to see, what time it is by reading a sundial anymore.
Yeah, cannon fire.
But also in there, besides having gardens filled with roses, there's over 1,000 orchids. There's a peony garden that I mentioned. There's an alpine garden. There's a botanical garden, an ecological garden. But there's also the oldest zoo in the world.
In the world.
In the world. It dates back to 1793 and was created from the Royal Menagerie of Versailles. One of my favorite things about this zoo is it is where Eugène Delacroix, and then also Barry and Fremier used to spend endless hours sketching animals that they would use, Delacroix for his painting and Barry and Fremier for their sculptures. And that is why those three are such amazing animal artists, because they would sit there in the zoo, in the menagerie, and just sketch them and watch the way they move and everything about them.
And when they could finally see them for real and not just try to guess what these animals look like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really cool. Have you been to it before?
Yeah, but when I went, it was kind of sad. I was like, where are the animals?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very different from the zoos that you think of in the States, where it's, everything's concrete and, here comes the lions coming out of this pretend concrete jungle. It's a lot more natural looking, but it is like I went in there one day and I was like, so where are the animals? Like the whole first part of it, you can't see any animals until you get to, like the big cats, their cages are very lush and lots of, greenery and trees and shrubs and stuff. It was, I thought it was really neat. It was a lot more natural looking than what we're used to. And then when I went around the corner and saw what was like, I don't know, there must have been 40 pink flamingos, which I'd never seen a pink flamingo in real life.
Yeah, I didn't see the flamingos, but I went when it was kind of colder out.
Yeah, so they're all inside. I think every time I've ever gone to a zoo, it's always when like the animals are sleeping.
Yeah. Certain times of the day are better than others, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know. It's like, can you do something?
Yeah. Entertain me.
But during, here comes the grim part. So in 1870, when the siege of Paris was going on by the Prussians, these animals didn't do so well. All of the food was cut off in Paris. At this point, people were eating, the pigeons, and they were eating the rats, and they were eating, I hate to say animals, as far as cats and dogs. But it was actually on the 99th day of the siege was Christmas Day, 1870, and there was a restaurant called the Voisin Restaurant. It was at 261 Rue Saint-Honoré, which is now a Dior store. So harkening back to last week's episode, this is not where the Dior Museum is. This is over on the right bank. But here at this thing, and there's no plaque on the building that tells you this, rightfully so, but there was a very special dinner. The chef's name was Alexander Etienne Choron. He developed a menu that included, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Donkey, elephant, cats, rat, everything you would think of that came. Basically, they were bringing the animals from the zoo because people were starving. But it wasn't, this was for a very elite clientele that could pay for it.
Oh my God, gross.
So gross. The stars that were there at the zoo, there was 2 huge elephants named Castor and Pollux. They survived this episode, but they didn't survive for very long because shortly afterwards they were also killed and fed to starving Parisians.
Oh, this is also sad.
I know, it is really sad. And luckily not long after that the war ended. But they cut off all food to Paris, and so of course people were starving, and what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the raft of the Medusa when they had to decide which person they were going to eat.
Oh my gosh, dark times.
Very dark times, very dark times. But right outside of the zoo and the Jardin is a fountain, and this is the fountain of Georges Cuvier. It was created in 1840, and it replaced a fountain that was dedicated to Saint Victor by architect Alphonse Vigouroux. This one was dedicated to Cuvier. He was a self-taught expert on animal anatomy, and also once worked at the National History Museum and he was later a professor at the École Centrale. The allegory of the fountain is holding up a large tablet which is inscribed with happy who who has able to penetrate the reasons of things, that was written by Virgil. But this is a really interesting fountain, a sculpture on it, because a lion sits next to the allegory and an eagle's behind it. And she's surrounded by animals below, and also below is a crocodile, and the crocodile has its head turned all the way around looking up at her, but it's actually impossible for a crocodile to bend his head that way.
What? I didn't know that. We're learning
Yeah,
about
so just in case, dear listeners, if you happen to be in Florida and you come across a crocodile, just stand behind him. He won't find you.
Yeah, he won't turn. He's not the exorcist. He can't turn
He
around.
can't turn his head around. He might turn his whole body around and come get you, but he can't flip around and look behind him.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so see, it's just where it's a grim for the animals of the zoo, but we're gonna save your life when you get
Yes.
yeah.
Safety.
And also, yeah, also just not very far from here. And of course, because I love her so much, we have to bring it into it. There is a street called the Rue de Nevers. It's a very small street. It's one of the oldest streets of Paris, and once was where one of the greatest women in French history lived. My favorite, Rose Valland. This is where she was living when she was working at the Jeu de Paume. So this is exact location where she would come home every night and fill those journals up with all of the information that she had heard and seen about all of the looted, mostly art taken from Jewish galleries and owners. And she'd come home to this very location and fill out her journals that were used then later by the Allies, and later to return more than 45,000 pieces of art to Jewish families.
Wow. We love Rose.
We love her so much. I really do think I need to figure out how we could do it. So, start a petition to put her in the Pantheon.
I think we need to get it going.
I know I'm going to work on that one. But also right here, and this actually took me quite a few visits to Paris before I found this place and visited, but I was really excited. I think it was like 3 or 4 visits. There is the Jardin de Lutis. Have you been there before?
No, I haven't.
So this is the oldest thing you will find in Paris. It's not, the tree. But the Jardin de Lutis was a former stage amphitheater that held over 17,000 people and was built in the 1st century.
What?
So it used for 200 years until it was destroyed in the 3rd century. In the 6th century, Chiperic I, was grandson of Clovis and the king of Paris, had it restored before centuries later, again, it was covered and basically covered over and lost. But in 1860, while opening up the Rue Monge, the former arena was discovered on the northern edge as they started digging through to create the metro as well. But then another gentleman that also saved our beloved Notre Dame, Victor Hugo, sprang into action, sending a letter and that wrote to the papers saying, you cannot we can't destroy this. You can't he said, in quotes, give up living proof the past brings the future. So because of Victor Hugo, he saved this. And so it is, the city of Paris was founded on the island of Ile de la Cité that we see today, but it was much smaller. And so and after that, it then came over to the left bank. So this Roman arena was created. And so they would have, lion fights and all that kind of stuff that you did in Rome. But it is really cool when you go in there. I mean, of course, a lot of those stones aren't going to be from the 1st century anymore. And of course it's been redone, and it's not like, it's not as grand and as fancy as it was back then. Yeah. But it is still there and it's opened up, and it's pretty cool that you could see something that old in the city of Paris. But in the 1920s, they used it for the French National Basketball Championship.
What?
And so I cannot even imagine. There's no way that would fly today. There's no way that they'd be like, all right, let's bring in these parquet floors and have a basketball tournament in there. But it is really cool. I've gone through there now many times. If I'm in that area, I walk through there if it's a sunny day. You go in there, you can just kind of sit there. There's always kids playing soccer down in the arena. A lot of times there's school groups up there doing, the showing them and giving them the history of it. So there's a lot, especially on a nice day, there's a lot going on there, but it's pretty cool to go in there and see something that's literally from the first century.
I did go there one time. I remember now I had a family photo shoot there, and
Oh, wow.
it was pretty special to do a photo shoot there, considering the
Yeah.
history and everything. I mean, all the the levels of it are pretty cool for photography. So definitely
Yeah.
worth a visit.
It's definitely worth a visit, and you don't really know it's there because if you're going off of the Rue Manche, there's basically just here's just a very long block of buildings, and there's just kind of a doorway. And if you notice the green sign on it that looks like they have at all the park entrances that kind of give you a little info, you walk through that door, and then all of a sudden, when you're walking through the door, you're like, "Holy cow, what is this?" On the other sides, there's lots and lots of foliage, so it's kind of just hidden there. And that's why it kind of took me a long time just to find it without knowing where I was going, because it doesn't really just stand out, and there's not really signs saying this way
No.
to see this
It's
Roman
super
ruin.
hidden. You have to kind of go through a patch of forestry, kind of weird garden area. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not easy to find.
It's not easy to find, but it's so cool when you do. And it's just there, it's not that far off of the Boulevard Saint-Germain, probably just a couple minute walk just to the Boulevard Saint-Germain. And so it's right there in the Latin Quarter, so go there and go check out the Jardin des Plantes, and, especially in the spring. I'll do some live videos this spring from there because they have this one tree that's just massive that is covered, I think, with white blossoms. And this tree is so big that people walk in underneath it. And, on a day that it has a little breeze, it's like it's snowing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's really gorgeous. So it's definitely worth a little stop to go through and check it out, especially if you're staying in the Latin Quarter, but also if you're staying on Ile Saint Louis. I have a lot of clients that stay in Ile Saint Louis, and then I'm like, just pop over there. It's not a far walk from the Ile Saint Louis. Just pop over the bridge and walk on down there. It's a really, you could actually sit on the grass in places there, which is not something you could do on many of the parks of Paris.
Yeah.
But definitely venture over there and check it out.
Worth a visit. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. You should tune in next week for our next fabulous episode with Claudine, and definitely reach out to her if you're planning a trip to Paris. She can help you plan everything. You can book her as a private guide and follow her on ClaudineHemingway.com.
Thanks for listening today, guys. If you're interested in learning more about Claudine, her tours, history, and the beautiful photographs that she posts all over Instagram, tune into her website, ClaudineHemingway.com.